Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. So, I wanted to go in a little bit more depth and focus in greater detail still, because what I'm trying, the process of connecting to the certainty of God, the absolute certainty of God, is a huge and big step. Many of you have started it. Many of you have reached back to me and told me of the major impact this has already had in your life. But I wanted to go a little bit more in depth into what that connection actually means. These three Hebrew letters that are from the 72 divine name of God, or the master or the key that allow the operation of all the other names of God. Of course, in that list, there are names of God that gives you courage, that gives you, that removes addiction, that does all kinds of wonderful things. But if you're not in certainty, in absolute certainty that they will function, nothing will work. Nothing, not one of them will work. So as we stand with the world that's changing rapidly, and there's a reason why the world is changing rapidly. I was talking to my friend Georgie the other day, and he reminded me, and he's so totally right, because we were talking about our own challenges. I was sharing some of my own challenges that has happened to me for the past 5 years. He was sharing some of his own challenges, all of the stuff that happened to him and all that. And we were talking about karma. And he said to me, and I don't know why it didn't click before, but when he said it, all of a sudden I'm like, of course, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Which is, we are moving to what the Galactic Masters, when they describe it, call the quickening. It's an acceleration between now and 2030 of everybody on the planet, of all of our karma. We are all detoxing extremely fast. What would take multiple lifetimes to move through, we're going through them in months. And this is why we're besieged by all kind of emotional, physical. I mean, my friend I was talking to had multiple physical things happen to him, 4 surgery. I mean, lots of other things happened to him that were completely unexpected. Okay, one after the other, and I've had my share of challenges. You all have your share of challenges. So it's an acceleration in our karma, whether the karma is personal or it's lineage or it's planetary. The wars that are being waged around the world and all that, it's an acceleration. The financial stuff, the political and social stuff, it's an acceleration. And when he said this, it's like there's a part of my brain that may have been numb to this. All of a sudden, it was a light bulb went on, a light bulb went. Of course, that's what it is. That's why they call it in the channeling the quickening. It's because everything is moving so fast. It's like if you're taking herbal medicine and you're going through a purge, if the purge moves too quickly, it creates a health crisis. It causes you to be sick or have the symptom of being sick. And sometimes you have to slow down the purge in order for you to move through it with grace, right? So I wanted to mention that because that was a big help for me to, in my head, to kind of like organize in the conversation, my conversation last night, to try to organize my thoughts and my also to be at rest in my understanding, instead of the why me, why is this happening to me, when is this going to be over, more to the point of saying, no, I now understand what's going on. And with that understanding, I am now at rest. Okay, and I'm on my way out toward a resolution of the problem, because most of the time, karma means to do. It actually means to make. It's an active thing. In Sanskrit, it's not a passive thing. It's actually an active quality. And because of this, it's about, in Hebrew, it's tikkun, and tikkun means actually a correction that you need to make. So once the correction is made, the karma is gone. The negative part of the karma is gone. But karma doesn't have to be negative. Sometimes also the acceleration brings good karma, where you struck of incredible luck and all these beautiful things begin to happen. So that's when the good karma comes in. Again, in other words, if you think of the concept of karma as being deposit and withdraw in a bank. You know, if you make enough deposit, after a while you accumulate all of this interest and you can withdraw on them when you need it, kind of thing, right? It's a crude analogy, but you get my you get my drift. So I wanna focus a little bit more on the state of consciousness we have to be in to be able to activate the true absolute certainty. And really scanning these letters, Ayin, Resh, and Yod from right to left is major in connecting us through into the blessed field and the certainty of God, because in the blessed field there is no doubt, and it is through that certainty and through that knowing and through that constant, you know, because when you're in that place, there is not one way of doing things. And I'm going to use a simple example. When Makshoni, and there are some nuances that we need to understand. You may connect to the absolute certainty of God by using that symbol for something specific, a challenge, an acceleration in your karma where you feel confused and you're trying to get yourself into a safe shore. And you may, and when you're focusing on this, you can't ask God in that absolute certainty for very specific linear control and management things that you're thinking in your head. I'm going to explain. When Makshoni, overnight, when Moses connected to God and God said to him, God didn't just tell him jump in the water. Initially God said to him, why are you asking me? And then when he was puzzled, God said, jump in the water, go in the water. Because God had already given him the 72 name of God, and he had the ability he had the tool to create the miracle. So during the night, he gave the symbol to everyone, and everyone collectively synced with each other, 1 million people. And in the morning, when Makshoni jumped in the water or began to walk in, the water at his ankle, in complete absolute certainty that he will get safe passage, because that's what they were focusing on. Give us safe passage. Get us to the other side of the sea. Give us safe passage from Pharaoh. And the next, water to his knee. Give me safe passage. Give all of us safe passage. To his waist, give me safe passage. And so on and so forth until the water got to his mouth. Then the water split in half. The law that operates liquids, all the physical law were rewritten momentarily. And the water separated. And the Kabbalah said that everybody of water, the Zohar says everybody of water on the planet split in half at that very moment. Everything separated. Because it was the law around the entire planet that got rewritten. So there was an override. So I want you to understand that Makshoni did not go in his head and say to God, split the water in half. That's what I mean about stop managing. what you're asking. You need to understand that what you're asking God to do for you with the absolute certainty should come from an intention and a desire. A deep, clean, and pure desire, since you are the desire to receive. And again, we all have to receive. We have to look. And this is the thing for us all in the light community. Many of us think we have to be selfless. We have to keep giving, giving, giving. And we don't have a vessel. We don't have the capacity to receive because we're too busy being selfless. And many of us who are struggling because we're busy being selfless, and we don't have a desire. We haven't created the magnet and the way to attract and ground the miracle, because we think receiving is somehow ungodly and unbecoming of a being of light. Kabbalah makes in all the books I have read on the Kabbalah, they are very clear. You must have the capacity to receive. You have to have a desire to receive. But you have to have a desire to receive so that you can share, as opposed to the people who have a desire to receive so that they can, for themselves and themselves alone. That's where the difference is. Many times, even in absolute certainty, if the miracle is kind of fuzzy and it's not grounding because you think receiving even from God, again, it's a version of shame, that it's somehow ungodly. And the moment you change that narrative and you begin to accept, I have a desire to receive and I deserve to have this, the blessed field will automatically link it to you, and the miracle will happen in this. Just like actually, the sea will separate for you. Remember why we're here. We talked about karma last week. Janice had a beautiful question about karma and shame and all that. And I was trying to link this, and I want to go into depth into explaining this. We're here to remove greater shame through the process of the adversary that's creating all these tests and all this resistance is the vehicle or the resisting module that's going to allow us to receive the right way. To receive so that we can share ultimately with others, as opposed to receive for self and self alone, which is where shame and undeservedness come from. Because if we keep receiving selfishly over time, we will become ungrateful and we will become entitled. And that entitlement will block all the blessings. Now, I want to explain this even further. The blessed field, when Makshoni began to walk in the water, could have done all kinds of things. Instead of splitting the water, the blessed field, there was a potential in the blessed field that all of the children of Israel could have breathed underwater and they would walk right through. Or like Jesus, they could have walked on the water and traversed the Dead Sea all the way across on water. There are many ways in which this could have been handled. But none of them were trying to manage what God did. They let the blessed field create the miracle in whatever means and manner that it wanted to. What I'm saying is that when we're asking for miracle, you have to stop trying to direct the hands of God. You have to stop trying to manipulate and manage how God gives you the miracle. I hope this is making sense. Any questions, any comments?
Thank you, Pierre. That is a very important point for me, particularly because I tend to be a controller and investigate and research every avenue possible to choose what I think is the best one. And in fact, I need to release and let that all go. But I wanted to point out the important part of what you were saying to me, in addition, is that an action was required of all of the ways that God could have provided the Moses and the Israelites and Makshoni to escape. Of all the ways that could have been arranged, they didn't decide, right? Moses asked God, and God said, go into the water. So I think that's the point that we sometimes, or I sometimes miss in trying to divine what direction to take that is God's direction. That's not always easy.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes, Janice. And this is where trust and faith comes in, connected to certainty. This is where you have to, it literally, you're literally trying to navigate the dark. With eyes closed, you have to completely surrender and trust and move into the darkness. You're moving into the fog, knowing that nothing is going to happen to you. No harm will come to you.
And so you just take a step forward in whatever direction appears to you. And although maybe multiples appear to you, you take a direction and trust that God will make that work.
Exactly. And God is capable of making that direction work for you. That's the point. There is an endless sea of possibilities. As I share, in the crossing of the Red Sea, God could have made all of the children of Israel become amphibian, and all of a sudden they could have walked on the water. They could have been like Jesus and walk right on top of the water. We saw Jesus did that miracle with Peter on the rough seas. I mean, they could have done many things.
Yes.
But what actually happened? God did create a very specific miracle. And again, Makshoni was not controlling it. He was in a trance state, completely, knowingly, in bliss of absolute certainty that everything, all of his needs, all of his fears were gone because the miracle had already manifested. And he was so completely in the certainty of God over this, not how it was going to happen, but that he had safe passage already.
Did Makshoni know that Moses, I mean, you weren't there, so maybe you were, but did Makshoni know that Moses had received the word from God to go into the water, or did he just?
Yes, Moses did share that information with all of them.
Okay. So that's that. I mean, yes, I understand what you say, that God will meet us on whatever path we choose, but sometimes there is a path that God chooses, right?
Yes, and a lot of time the path that you think you're on, you think it's the wrong path, it's actually the right path. You see what I'm saying? It's actually the right path, and it's a question of I don't know how else to explain this. Let's analyze exactly what happened with Moses, the chronology. Moses, when Pharaoh, the light, the column of fire was beginning to dim down, the children of Israel realized and what was going to happen. Many of the mixed multitude almost attacked Moses, saying, we were at least at peace. We were enslaved, but at least we were alive in Egypt. Pharaoh is going to kill all of us now. Because again, Pharaoh, now having realized that every firstborn was dead, now got really enraged and angry. He wanted revenge. So what Moses did is that he connected to God. He said, let me ask God. And God said, why are you asking me? Walk in the water. And Moses told them this. They got even more angry. And then Moses had to calm them down and said, no, we have the means. God already gave us the means to create, to find safe passage. And overnight, for that entire night, that was at dusk that this was going on. So in the morning, he already knew that Pharaoh was going to catch up with them. So during the night, he had all of them stare at the symbol of the three Hebrew letters for certainty, for absolute certainty. And everyone became entranced. Now, Makshoni did not, nobody told Makshoni to go in except for the voice of God. We don't know why he went because everybody else was sitting on the shore. He was the only one that went in. In other words, he became the avatar. The hand of God chose him to begin to ground and anchor the miracle. Maybe it's because he had the most capacity to receive so that he could share with the world. And he started moving. Everybody was sitting there quiet. 3 million people not saying a thing. They're just watching him. And all of them were still in certainty, in absolute certainty. And he began to move. As he moved, the water got deeper, deeper, and deeper. And no one was screaming, yelling. The water got to his neck, to his mouth. And the moment it got to his mouth, started going in, the water separated. So a lot of times we're trying to manifest the miracle. We need to, because if you're asking God for a miracle, stop trying to tell God how to create the miracle. There are many choices. There are many ways in which God can create this. Follow a path. And again, if God was going to make him walk on water, when he started stepping into the water, he would have floated above it. So as he was walking in and he was getting wet, he was going deeper and deeper, he didn't care. He was entranced in the certainty that the miracle is already made. Because the end goal, whatever that is, that desire, again, remember, the world is moved by intention and desire. That desire, which is safe passage in this instance. And knowing that in that, it's very hard for me to explain this because when I'm in absolute certainty, I can feel that I'm connected to the quantum field, to an endless and vast field where all kinds of possibilities are churning about energetically. I can feel it. It's a very specific feeling. And when I'm in that state, whatever desire that I have, my problem is that I have to learn how to accept that I'm deserving of receiving, because I tend to keep giving incessantly to everyone else. So that's the part that I'm working on refining better, that I can be a better receiver. I can accept that the universe is blessing me.
One observation, please.
Yes.
It would be nice, of course, if when Makshoni put his toe in the water split, instead of waiting until it was going to ultimately cause his death unless something happened. But that would have been Satan then delivering at the moment of certainty of his faith, of his trust, not faith, but his trust, that he was going to receive from God what was requested.
Yes, and again, if it split the moment he began to step in, then that was a demonstration of the collective shame that 3 million people were carrying. He was the avatar to demonstrate that shame and to physically show the people they were deserving to receive the miracle from God.
Oh, I see. Well, it makes good sense. So still, even if it doesn't look like the waters are splitting in our own lives, we need to continue to walk.
The water's all splitting. That's the point. They are splitting. The rest is an illusion.
Ah,
The fact that the water was getting closer to his neck, that part is the illusion. Because the key is that when you're in that certainty, your consciousness control natural law.
That's big. The illusion based on the not just what you see in your environment, in your life, in your heart, but the separation being the main separation from God.
Yes.
That is the driving illusion that creates the others.
And I have to say to you that it's very hard to explain for me, because I know what that state is like. I'm not always 100% there, but I know what that state is like. It's like I keep saying to all the time, but the way to describe it is that I have the certainty of God. Like I am in a field of endless possibilities of permutation of all kinds of things, and I am in complete certainty that nothing will touch me, because everything else is an illusion.
Thank you. That ties a bow on it, sums it up nicely.
Yeah, it's like I am made of Teflon. Nothing will touch me.
How has that changed your life?
Well, it's a recent development for me. I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. It feels wonderful, actually, because as I said, I have been challenged by many things over the past 4 or 5 years, and again, I can't get into the detail. It's true. So a lot of it is extremely personal, but part of it also is that it's so customized to me and to my own karma. And as I said before in a conversation with Georgie last night, he was sharing with me the reason we're being challenged so much is that the karma is being accelerated to move in a few years what would have taken to some of us, let's say 6 to 10 lifetimes to move through. And in a couple of months, it's like, he enumerated all these things that happened to him. And I'm like, oh yeah, and me, this happened. And all the students of mine who have all these kind of problems. And this actually makes sense. Because if you know anything about homeopathic medicine, it's the same thing too. If you're trying to remove something from your body and you're purging whatever toxins out, if you purge it too quickly, it will cause a crisis. Again, I'm trying to find a way to explain this, because there is no words or no description that befit the actual sensation. It's suddenly I am in something else and I'm completely at rest and completely in absolute knowing and certainty that nothing can touch me. And whatever problem is happening in the world, in my life, whatever, it's all, that's the illusion. That's the Red Sea that's getting closer to Makshoni.
Beautiful.
And if we can maintain this kind of like a state of awareness, again, I find that one of the things it gives also, it makes things, and this is a state I was in prior to all of the tests from the adversary, which was that I always had clarity. I'm intuitive enough that I always have clarity. I'm not claiming to be better than anybody else, but I think in some respects I am having experiences that maybe 1/10 similar to what Job went through. It's very intense. But I also know it's my karma. It's part of the process through which I have to evolve. For me to move through and understand that that they are all illusion, and whatever it is that's presenting itself, I am in the knowing, the trust, and the certainty that I have the protection, the love, and the complete support of the uncreated. My part in the equation is for me to emancipate my capacity to receive so that I can share with the world. That's the part that I'm still working on. I can do it for other people like this, and I can cause miracles to happen for you and everybody else. I can do it left and right. But for me, I have a problem. And that's why the adversary got me, or had me at a moment in a chokehold.
Would you say that if the challenge does not, I will say disappear, but resolve, that means there's still a lesson to be learned?
Well, that means if I'm in certainty and I can feel that state all around me, and I still have the challenge is not resolved, is not resolved all around me, it means my capacity to receive, there's a problem there. I'm not accepting the miracle that absolute certainty is trying to bring to me. I'm not accepting it.
A deservedness issue.
Exactly. In other words, being, again, there are two things that move the world: desire to give, desire to receive. It's the first chapter in my book: desire to give, desire to receive.
Yes.
Some people who are at different stage in their test, and they seem to be turning a corner, it's because their desire to receive, they have a great capacity to receive. They know how to receive, and they're accepting of it.
How do you increase?
Well, you have to keep having self-talk. You have to have conversation with yourself. You have to keep analyzing and saying to yourself, I am deserving of this. This is the same gift, the same way I'm able to bestow this upon all these other people. I deserve to have it too.
I see. So it's just nothing different, just the same thing repeated.
You have to keep repeating it to yourself. It's a program. It's a deep and ancient program. It's a program. You have to have different conversation with yourself. You have to keep going into the blessed field, going in absolute certainty. And every time you feel that the gift and the blessing and the miracle, I already have safe passage. It's already there. I already have it. The miracle you're trying, I'm already healed. It's done. I already have the money that I need. It's done. I'm already abundant. I'm already rich. It's all done. Everything is resolved.
And gratitude.
Yes. Yes. And the gratitude will help you a lot be accepting, because the reason for the weakness in our desire to receive is it's the entitlement. We think we were too entitled at some point. So if you can be grateful that gratefulness will magnify into you the gift that is coming from the giver, from the blessed field.
It isn't our weakness that we're most afraid of. What is the quote? It is our strength. It is our. Do you know what I'm trying to remember?
Yeah. Mariam Williamson's quote. Yeah, our
Yes.
greatest fear.
Yeah.
It's not that we're dark and no, but it's actually that we're light, we're brilliant, and we're extraordinary.
Interesting. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And to take this even further, in that state of certainty, if you can create, and we're being trained. You have to understand what the adversary is doing. We're being trained now. This is still the tricycle. This is not the bicycle yet. It's still the tricycle. We're being trained so that once you have achieved that connection to the absolute certainty of God, we can begin now to create other kind of miracle. Now, you may have something specific, a challenge that's specific in your life, a struggle that you're trying to overcome. But once you are capable of doing that, you can apply the same principle of certainty for almost about anything. In fact, I will say for about anything. I'm going to say something else to you. A lot of people are talking a lot about traveling at great distance through space, light years away and all that, faster than the speed of light. You can't go any faster than light speed because otherwise you start growing old. There's all of that relativity kind of thing. The more advanced races of the universe do not travel at the speed of light. They travel at the speed of consciousness. Not thought, consciousness. And a great lesson happened to a very mediocre movie that I watched. I just talked about this very briefly. I even forgot the name of the movie. It was that bad. But there is one scene in there that was so instrumental, and that's the reason the universe led me to watch this. Because a lot of times these writers are channeling. And basically this guy was talking about two space locations. There was an alien that came to Earth, and the alien was trying to teach the scientists how to, without telling him directly, but indirectly, how to actually achieve some extraordinary things. And again, traveling from one distance A to a distance B, you would end up being dead and buried and so old by the time you arrive, and all of that stuff, it was impossible for them to achieve. But what was described is that when this man had the insight, the light bulb went on for him, is that when you're at point A, there is a certain kind of 3D space coordinate, a feel of what it is to be in space at point A, X, Y, Z axis, etc., etc. There is a sense of what that environment feels and is like. If you can think of what point B looks like, the feel, the special characteristic, the special coordinate of what point B looks like, and you ask of absolute certainty to make you go into that blessed field, into that point B, it will happen like this. this is the way, and I'm trying to explain this in a way that will make sense because it's so clear in my mind. And I wish I could split your head and put the information there. Though what we lack a lot of time, as it stands right now, because we're still in 3D, what we lack right now, because the moment you fully connect to absolute certainty, you've already achieved your fourth dimensional ascension. You're past 4D. Because at that moment, your desires, because you're now accepting yourself as a complete receiver, the way we were originally, when the desire to receive and the desire to give were in a perfect alchemical marriage. All you have to do is to think of a transformation, a gift that you're trying to receive. Whether it is you're trying to give somebody with a change and transformation because you want to help them heal something, or you want to help them achieve, whatever it is that you're trying to help someone with. All you have to do at that moment is to think of it with the absolute certainty and the blessed feel, and not the management, not the detail on how to do it. You think of you have the desire for it, and you let the giver drop it into the physical manifestation, so that your environment is changed. In quantum physics, it's called quantum entanglement. An electron that's here on Earth will respond to any change and transformation of any electron anywhere else in the universe, irrelevant of the location. What changes when one of them, when there's an excitement or something change in one, all the other ones all change automatically. And moreover, from one place, you can travel to the other place. And because of this, there is no actual, what's the word? Resist. There is no, there is nothing that we could not achieve when we're in that state of absolute certainty. In other words, when we see, for example, UFOs that appears to be in one location at one instant, and then the next thing you know, the pilot who are watching them like this, the blank, it seems that the UFO disappear and show up somewhere else. They are moving at the speed of consciousness. And the distance between planets, between galaxies are not relevant to this equation, because they have emancipated into another dimension where travel is no longer limited by light years and the laws of natural physics that connects the 3D reality. So that when an ascended master like Jesus or Hilarion, as a great healer, walk in front of a blind person and says, see, that's how they're doing it. They're seeing the coordinate of this person, seeing, perceiving, having sight, perfect sight. And as they see it, because they are in absolute certainty, it is automatically grounded through them. this is the way we're supposed to, as 144,000, help the planet navigate safe passage into the new Earth at the time of the galactic equator crossing. Because with that, we can begin to guide humanity into the ascended tomorrow. And again, we have to be in absolute certainty. If we're not there, we won't be able to do it. Now, the adversary has a role to play, but this role when I belonged to the mystery school, they used to call that test the dweller on the threshold. Any initiate, when you're about to move from one place, from one level of initiation into another level, you have to face the dweller on the threshold. And there are multiple tests of the dweller. It's not just one test. People keep thinking it's one thing that's going to happen, and then after that, everything. It's not the way it works. And particularly now, within a few years, between now and 2030, we are supposed to shed 10 lives, or karma from 10 lives. We're going to face the dweller multiple times. But we have the tools. If we can go in absolute certainty, it will give you. And I'm trying to explain this to you in a way that I'm hoping that I can convey this the right way. Let's say, for example, the goal is how to get to the 5D. Okay? You're trying to get yourself there, ascended in 5D, and you're also trying to get the rest of humanity to follow. What 5D looks like to you right now, because we're talking about spatial coordinate, what it feels like to be in 3D. I was out, for example, today it was a nice day, a little bit nippy, but very nice on the waterfront. I was meditating, I was talking to my friends and all that. It was stunning, it was beautiful. And I felt very present and very grateful to be alive and to be in that environment because it was so beautiful. But as I sat at that moment, I began to think, what does 5D looks like? It's still unknown to me. I don't know what the spatial coordinate, the space or the environment or the coordinate of that space looks like to me. But what I can do is that if I remain in a state of surrender, again, as I was telling Janice a little bit earlier, it's like feeling your way into darkness. It's like there is a dense fog, and 5D right now, for me, is a general, I know there is a presence in the fog, but the fog is so thick, I can't see exactly what it looks like. But with absolute certainty, if I keep focusing on the presence and what the presence feels like to me, it's like when you're sitting down and you think somebody's behind you. You may not know exactly who it is, but if you focus on the presence and you keep focusing on it, it eventually will show up. You will have intuitive hits and insight as to, I think it's a man, it's a woman, it's an animal, so this is the way over a period of time of sitting and querying what that 5D looks like to you, or the miracle you're trying to achieve. If you don't know what the environment of it is, it will eventually drop down and you will know it. And when you know it, all you have to do is request its grounding around you. And what's going to happen? Like this. Like an electron that's on one side of the universe, it will blank out one part and show up at the other location that you're intending to go. And all of the process of listening, of having doubts, again, every time you're about to achieve some sort of elevation, the dweller will show up. There's always the dweller. The dweller, the adversary, the accuser, same thing. The test will be there. The doubts, the fear. When I was taking actual physical initiation, they used to lock you up in a chamber, in a room, I'm not going to reveal all the details of my initiation because I made an oath and I can't reveal them. But I can tell you they put you in a very dark place for a while to sit with your own thought and your own idea and your own doubt. And you don't know what's going to happen, and all kinds of things begin to fly in your head. I remember on the initiation I was doing at my own sanctum at home, where I had to look at myself in the mirror with a candle on, 2 candles on each side of me, and they didn't tell you what was going to happen. They kept saying, stare at yourself in the mirror through the candle. I saw all kinds of things. That was my test of the dweller. It was terrifying. And as you move to all of these things, beyond that, an initiate, a guardian, will take, once you pass the test, will take you from the darkness and bring you into the light. There is always an angelic presence, a guardian from the higher density. In the Tibetan Book of the Dead, there are prayers that were done when you're in the dweller state. The Tibetan Book of the Dead talks about all these various days where every day there is a major fear experience that you have to take. And again, it's 49 days, it's 49 experience of dweller or of the adversary. And every day there's a prayer that you have to say to ask and besiege the Buddha and the Dakini, the angel and the enlightened being, the enlightened host that exists in that realm, because the dweller is an illusion it's a projection of your own fear, of your own undeservedness, of your own shame. And once you realize it's an illusion, then the Buddha or the enlightened being that exists behind this will show up. And the Tibetan Book of the Dead is very clear. And what shows up at that moment to take you into enlightenment is not just the Buddha and the Dakini. The light that you actually see that comes for you is actually you. It's an aspect of you. And the Tibetan Book of the Dead is very clear. And if you can identify and recognize that it is you, recognition and enlightenment are instantaneous. Because the moment you recognize that it is you, you're enlightened. You pass the test. Any questions, any comments? Lydia, any comments on the dweller?
No, I really don't have any comments, at the moment, except to say that all of us have to do it for ourselves. And we could hear a story over and over and over and over and over, but until you accept that this is your individual test, it is the presence that is there. It's like the last step of that duality before we're going to really regain that total union with the I am a presence, and you will have to do this for yourself. And I could tell you over and over what is happening to me. You can tell someone else over and over what is happening to you. But until each person accepts that they too will have a test that is designed for them, and they will have to be the one who has the faith, who's trusting. They have to do that for themselves. No one can do it for you. You are coming for yourself. There's no one coming for you. That's the only thing I can say, Pierre, because I listen to you over and over, trying to explain and explain and explain, and it's not going to present itself exactly the same way. So if you say, "Oh well, it didn't," I'm waiting for the entire sea to part before I can say that it did. No, you have to put your foot forward and walk in the water up to your neck. You have to believe that you will be brought through this.
Mhm.
You can't wait for the result. You have to become that same Mashoni. You have to become that yourself. So and sometimes I just say, oh my God, I don't know how many ways you could say anything, but it is just that simple as you have to recognize your life is the one that is, you want that elevation. How bad do you want it? Like you look at all these gangster movies. This guy was, and there's one scene I was looking at, and this detective had come into this picture, and he was sitting there with his wife, and one of the other men were in the room with him, and the other man was looking at the detective's wife, and so the detective just took his gun out, laid it on the table, and he said to the man, "Are you willing to die for this?" And that other guy decided that no matter how beautiful that woman was or how sweet that little rendezvous would have been, he wasn't willing to die for this. So how bad do you want this reunion? Are you willing to let that ego self die and 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 become something you don't even know, but you know that it's greater than whatever it is that you had? I don't know how else I can say it that you didn't already say it. Because I'm sorry I tuned in a little bit late because I was waiting for the time, and then the time went by, and then I looked and it was already after the time. And so when I came and you were saying the same thing, I said, "Oh my goodness!" I
But
said,
Sylvia,
"Yes, yes,
isn't it a question of also of surrendering and trust?
yes." But you have to do that.
Yes,
You
yes,
have to do it. That's what
yeah,
I'm saying. You have to do that.
yep.
Like you can't go on Pierre's coattails. You can't go on your sister's skirt tails. You must do this for yourself. Every morning you get up and you put your foot on the ground and you walk. Why? Because you trust your foot. It worked yesterday, so you know that it's going to work today. You have that much trust. You walk to the corner, you stand on the corner, you wait for the light to change. Why? Because you understand that there's a signal for yet to go, there's a signal for stay, and there's a cautionary signal. So you have accepted that these are the correct signals for you to move on. And then you must move. Other than that, you will never cross that street. You have to step out.
Mm-hmm.
And when Pierre saying, when you step out on the go of the Spirit, it is the same as stepping out when the green light comes on. There's some man program that you have 15 seconds or whatever it is to cross the street safely. You step out on that because you trust that 15 seconds. So why we test over and over when the Spirit says move? When my children were young and I would be taking them someplace and I would say, you hold my hand. And I said, and don't let go. And if I pull your hand, I don't want you to resist me and pull the other because you don't want to go. I want you to move in that moment because that might be the difference between the safety of us getting wherever we have to go. So I want you to move in that moment. And if I tell you to stop, I want you to stop on a dime. Don't question. Just stop.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it so hard to trust? When intuitively, there are things that are happening inside of your body that you don't have no control. If your automatic reflexes weren't working, you would stop breathing. Your heart wouldn't function because you don't have control over these things. These things have been set. And so when these rhythms go off, then you know something is wrong.
So we have to become children.
Yes, you have to become as children to respond immediately
Yeah.
to the prompting of the Spirit in that moment. That could be your life. I really, I listened to Pierre in the class. I said, I wouldn't want this job. I would want this job. I can see how when you had your pictures on the counter where you have that long flowing braids and you had a full head of hair. I probably would have no hair either at this point because you've been trying and pouring your heart out year after year, year after year. I remember I told Tia one time I was listening to him. I was in Florida at the time, and he was talking, and I could see him. All of a sudden, I saw him like John the Baptist, crying in the wilderness.
Mm.
Crying in the wilderness, like make way for the coming king. Make way. Do this. Be baptized. Prepare yourself. And yet and still, people didn't hear. They didn't listen. They didn't do the preparation.
Mm.
So, and I heard him, and I saw him, standing in the water, crying in the wilderness. And I think I told you about that, Pierre, but because I could just.
You know what, Celie, I had completely forgotten, but this is resonating so deeply with me right now.
Yes. And
Because
I saw it.
that's how I feel a lot of time.
Wow. Wow. So let's do our part.
Yeah.
Don't have to be convinced every single day. Convince yourself. Encourage yourself. Because if you look at some war pictures, and those people, they're following the leadership of just another man who doesn't know, but he's going on whatever training he has had, and you willingly follow him. Why we can't follow Spirit with the same?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sound like trying to reprimand you. It's just inside myself. I want to cry. I understand why people weep and tear their clothes. I understand why my teacher was so frustrated. What other way could I tell you? I have shown you with my life. I have given you example after example. It said, if a wayfarer be a fool, he still has no need to err.
Mhm. Sister Lydia,
Well, yeah.
it's so profound what you're saying right now, and I want to thank you for this because one of the things that the dweller is teaching me now, the adversary is teaching me now, because of the personal challenges that it has created in my life, for my benefit. It's gonna ultimately end up, because I know better, that this is the way the test, this is the teaching module,
Mm-hmm.
is that my capacity to have empathy and compassion for exactly what Lydia is talking about right now, to the people that are out there that seems to be stuck and frozen and incapable of moving because they are so scared. I understand you.
Mm-hmm.
I deeply and profoundly understand you. Because had it not been for the grace of God and the teaching that I know, I was you a few months ago. There were certain things that I was supposed to do, but I was literally, it's like somebody knocked all of my limbs out, and I'm incapable of doing what I know is going to be for my benefit.
You become paralyzed.
Emotionally, psychologically, and mentally paralyzed, and spiritually, because you're surrounded by
Mm-hmm.
the adversary.
Mm-hmm.
This is why they call him the accuser.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. I now understand, because my empathy and my compassion, and this is the gift of that teaching module from the adversary, it emancipated it for me.
And the lesson doesn't stop, but you snap out of it. What you just described, when you are paralyzed that way, something has to snap you out of that in order for you to take an action, whether it be the right, whether you consider that was the right action or wrong action, but you must take an action.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And at some point you will. I had a conversation with Esther during the class several weeks ago, and we were talking. Esther had asked me the difference between faith and absolute certainty. And we were talking about the faith is the entry point for absolute certainty, and that faith has in it the ability for the dweller to come in, or the adversary to come in and create doubts. In absolute certainty, there exists only laws. There is no doubt. Esther, do you mind telling me the insight? I don't remember the sentence you said when you called me. Do you remember what it was?
Yes, Pierre. Thank you. Well, it was when in meditation. Well, weeks before, I had asked a question, because when you first began to speak about certainty, at the end of that session, the next day, I began to, I don't know, the two words came up: certainty and faith. And all during that week, I was pondering, well, okay, certainty, I loosely understand it. what you were getting at. But then I really didn't get the connection clearly between certainty and faith. And last week during meditation, what came to me is that certainty is the law. I mean, it's just the law, that we all live in, and that, everything exists in. And faith, what came to me is that faith is a choice that you can make. And that was the key difference, because in the law, it's the law. It's not choice at all. It is what is, what exists. And then the faith part is that faith is there, but it's a choice that we make to enter into that faith, and have that faith. But we don't have to. It's part of that choice that we are given as human beings. You can choose or you cannot choose. But law, it's not even a question, because we came here by the law. We will leave by the law. The law is what is, and what operates, and what generates the universe. So that's what came to me, and that's why at the end of the class, I was in a deep meditative mode. So, and after, we hung up, and I said, Barbara, it came to me in meditation, the difference, to me clearly, the difference between certainty and faith. And I said, okay, I got to call Pierre right now. And that's when I picked up the phone and called. If that makes sense. But that's what.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It rings true like a trumpet. Absolutely true.
Yeah. But it was through the meditation, that it just showed up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Esther. Thank you. And thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yes.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments that anyone has? All right. Why don't we take a 5-minute break, water break, and then we will do a closing meditation afterwards. 5 minutes.
Esther, are you still there?
She must have stepped out to go to the bathroom, Celia. Give her a
Okay.
couple more minutes, okay? Esther, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. I'm back now.
Okay, I think, Celidia wanted to ask you something. Celidia?
Yes, Lydia.
Hi, Selena.
Hi, sweetheart. I just wanted to say the Spirit just said to me that that was beautiful, that you received that divine inspiration from Spirit, and that that in itself was an act of faith. And you moved from faith into certainty. It's because without faith, it's impossible to please God. Because you must first know that He exists. And that was beautiful. And I just want to say thank you for allowing us to witness.
Oh, thank you so much, Lydia. You know, I was happy to share it, and it was just, you know, just going through it in a deeper way and listening to questions that came up, because that's what I was doing, you know. When Pierre said certainty, I felt it, but I really had to meditate on it, you know, to really embrace it deeper. And when I thought about faith, I don't know, the way I saw it, it showed up as a picture while my eyes was closed. The picture was this line, but the line had some, you know, gaps in it, but it was a straight line with gaps. like maybe every foot there would be 2 inches gaps, and then in another foot 2 inches gaps. It showed up that way. And I mean, not that I understood why, but I just recognized how it showed up. And it showed up not with the same intensity as certainty did, but it showed up. It showed up as that line with those gaps in it. And then after the meditation last week, it all came together for me. I understood what those gaps were and what those straight lines were. The straight line is you choosing faith. The gaps were you not choosing, faith in that particular moment. So that's how, it came to me. But thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you for sharing with us. Thank you, dear.
Beautiful. All right, let us get started. Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Let your mind and your heart sync with each other. Realized that that you can perceive 360 degrees. And from your heart space, notice what you noticed. Become aware of all of the struggles, crises, challenges that you may be facing at this time. I release all my attachment, fears, and control. And I surrender everything into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. Take this cup away from me. Now look at your screen and focus on the Hebrew letters from right to left for absolute certainty. In absolute certainty. Let your desire and intention be known. It is now the law. And it is done. Focus on the end results, not on the means and the how. In every pulse of my being, in every cells of my body, in the remote access of my entire consciousness, I ground this as the law. And it is done. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes. How you all feeling?
Thank you, Pierre. If I could just say thank you for the blessings of deeper understanding. If it causes more repetition, it may be just that there are layers of understanding. And what you've given me tonight, and I think all of us, is another depth of that understanding of certainty and connecting to it. Thank you.
You're welcome, Janice. You're welcome. Any other questions or comments? I want to thank you all for listening to me tonight. I want to thank everyone that's following us on Patreon. Thank you for your support. To all of you that are on YouTube, like this video, subscribe to the channel, keep the algorithm going. Sending you my deepest love, and I'll talk to you next week. Blessings to all of you. Good night.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night, everyone.